This is Ryan Pierce, host of Completely Serious. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Baxter Colburn, host of the Verse of the Day podcast on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Verse of the Day. In Verse of the Day, we talk about practical examples on how each verse in the Bible can be applied to our daily lives and draw us a little bit closer to all that God has to offer. A new show comes out every single day, so don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Verse of the Day podcast. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Throughout history, the course of sports has been shaped by one thing: the fans.
From the moments you never dreamed of,
Bobby Womack has saved the USA's life in this World Cup. Hall, the runner, loose ball, it's good. Gonzaga, the flipper still fits.
To the moments that still give you nightmares.
Behind the back, it gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it. He's in. Patriots win the Super Bowl. Brady has his fifth.
through the good and the bad, fans have helped change the games we watch and the players we love.
They may not be the most logical people.
You are a factory of sadness. I'll see you Sunday.
But they know their teams better than anybody.
They'll blow in the ninth.
You may not always see them, but you know where to find them.
After all, there's nothing quite like the view from the cheap seats.
Broadcasting as part of the Public House Media Network.
Grab a chair and enjoy all there is in
The cheap seats.
Good morning. Welcome to the Cheap Seats here on Public House Media. I'm Baxter Colburn. That stylishly good-looking devil of a man across the table from me is Matt Coyne. Hi, Matt. How are you this morning?
I'm fine. How about you, Baxter?
Doing pretty good. Oh, boy, oh, boy. So we need to get this out of the way right away. Our show is recorded on Thursdays, typically. So if you are wondering why some of the things we talk about today are potentially a little bit in the back of things that may have happened when you're listening to the show on Friday, we apologize ahead of time. But this is when Matt and I are able to get together to do the show. So if we're going to talk a little bit more broadly about topics, about free agency, the brackets, all that. So if your bracket's busted already by Friday morning, I'm sorry. You can answer our poll question on our Facebook page and say if your bracket's busted or not. But if it's not,
I can just answer that now.
You can just say that now. Yeah, apparently. I mean, I had Wisconsin winning it this year, and jeepers, they didn't even make the tournament. Like, don't I look silly? Holy cow! Oh boy, oh boy. But either way, just want to get that out of the way. We do want to remind you, of course, the show is heard Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. Central Time. You can catch John and Christian on Monday mornings. You can catch Jeff and Max on Wednesdays. And then if you're still partially interested in what we do, you can hang out here in the cheap seats with Matt and myself here on Friday mornings. We are going to have a guest again today as we do our Calling Home segment. Pittsburgh's done nothing in free agency, so you voided your Pittsburgh card for this week.
Yeah, I was happy to hand that over to you. Because,
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Green Bay's been on the move, and Steelers are just getting rid of players.
Yeah, they're like, you get a team. Like, we don't need anybody. We don't even know if we're going to get Bell back. But
we just need the 3 Bs, and we're good.
Right, exactly. So we're going to be joined a little bit later in the program by one of the executive producers at the Big 920 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Armen Saryan, to help cover a little bit more about what's going on with the Packers. So we're excited to have Armen. He's a good friend of mine, to have him on the program and decide what we're doing with everything with the Packers. So still a lot in play, but they've already made moves, but we'll get to all of that.
Yeah.
We'll get to all that in a little bit, of course. But aside from that, follow us on the Facebook if you are so inclined. We are The Cheap Seats on Facebook, and you should see the page, The Cheap Seats by Public House Media. So go and give us a follow and hang out with us. We're on a lot of different platforms: Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio now, TuneIn Radio, and the list goes on and on.
There's no excuse now.
No, you literally will find us in every medium, and we will beat you. No, we won't beat you, but we would strongly encourage you, with our muscles flexed, intimidating you, to listen to our show. Make sense, right?
I mean,
sure.
I don't have muscles, but
you have a big heart.
Yeah.
That's a muscle.
Oh, okay.
See what I did there?
That's nice.
All right, Matt, time for some quick headlines, right? This is how we always start off the show. Give us the rundown here. Russell Westbrook, a couple days ago, hit 100 triple-doubles. I'm sure he's quadrupled that number by the time we've recorded because he's incredible, but he's moved himself into the history books, Matt, hasn't he, with this move?
Yeah, I know Jason Kidd, Magic Johnson. I know there's one other. I can't think of who it was, but
Michael Jordan?
No, not Michael Jordan. But yeah, 100, and he's pretty young. I mean,
he's kind of good at football, at basketball.
Yeah.
He'd probably be good at football too.
It's impressive. I mean, a few years ago he was, kind of the sixth man, and then all of a sudden now it's just impressive. I mean, I can't even make it on my daughter's little Tykes thing. I mean, let alone...
They're like, no, Matt, get out of here. That's also a little weird, too, I guess. But anyway, so exciting for him. Yeah, fourth player in history to do that. Pretty amazing. It's amazing what having a split with a guy like Kevin Durant can do for a player.
Yes.
You see there was that whole big thing, and that last 2 seasons have just been this fuel for Russell Westbrook to now assert himself as one of the best players in the NBA right
now. Yeah, it's amazing how you can, you think of somebody like a Kyrie Irving, sorry about that. What's he going to do? I mean, he hasn't really shined too much without LeBron, but Russell Westbrook is one of those players who said, I can do it without him, and he's shown it.
Absolutely. Speaking of showing people that they are capable of doing a lot, Tiger Woods is making headlines.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Tiger Woods. You're more the golf guy than I am, but he's apparently what's he doing? He's doing fairly well.
Yeah, this past week he missed a semi-long putt to take it into a playoff, and he missed it but finished second after being off for over a year. He is the favorite going into Bay Hill this weekend.
Really? When's the last time that was a thing?
I honestly don't remember. A lot of people dislike Tiger Woods. I've always enjoyed watching him golf. Phil Mickelson's my favorite. I mean, I'm a lefty. Yep. I have to pull for lefty.
Of course.
But I've always enjoyed watching him play, and even though he's had his moments, I'm happy to see that he's back into it. I think it's good for golf. I think it's huge for golf to have Tiger Woods back in the light.
I would agree with you on that one as well. Next quick headline, Mr. Tebow has been demoted to minor league baseball for the Mets organization after he was originally part of the spring training for the first team Mets, and people were like, this is it. This is the big chance. And that obviously was not the case. Tebow is 30 years old. He had 1 hit in his 18 spring training at bat, so that was a .056.
Hey, that's not too... No, this... They're getting towards the end of spring training. This is when this starts happening. He wasn't going to the majors. This isn't a surprise to me at all. This is when the minors start getting sent down, and there's no way he was going to the majors yet. I'm still holding on that we were talking a few weeks ago. I'm still holding on that he'll be up there.
I agree with that as well, too. And Tim said in the interviews that he was doing after the announcement, he said it wasn't surprising. He's like, the Mets organization has been so transparent with me on all of this. I'm not surprised that this is how it ended up being. So he's fine with it.
Of course he is.
So, I mean, what is he going to say? He struck out 11 of his 19 times at bat. How do you argue with that? I mean, statistically, any player would be set down at that point if you batted one.
Well, I mean, he'll probably just move over to basketball now and try that out.
Hey, we'll take him in Milwaukee. Oh boy! Speaking of basketball, there was a really cool story about a week or so ago that we just weren't able to mention last time. But there was an Iowa basketball player that purposely missed a free throw to keep a former player's record intact.
Yeah, well, I love this story. This player from Iowa was 1 shot away from beating the free throw record, and he clearly purposely missed it. So this person's. This other player's record was staying intact. He was really close to the family, got to know them really well. This player unfortunately died before he could extend his record. So this player felt that he needed to do this, and the coach backed him up with it and said, hey, man, I'm glad you do this. That's a huge thing that you did. So I respect this young kid.
Yeah, that's a huge, I think, sign of integrity, a huge sign of respect as well, too.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are like, it's my record now. I want to break it. Give me the glory. But really nice gesture in that one. Finally, the last quick headline. We mentioned this briefly last week. The Champions League is going on right now. We don't necessarily care about some of the other lower teams that have been knocked out because that's just how it goes. But Manchester United has officially been knocked out of the Champions League after a 2-1 loss to Sevilla. Who's done really well in the Europa League before, but now Man United continues to go from bad to worse in all competitions. Rumors that Jose Mourinho might be on his way out as well, too. So all is not well with the Man United Reds, unfortunately. The Red Devils, as they call themselves. So we'll see what happens in the next round of the Champions League. As we know, Real Madrid beat up PSG, and that, of course, was a big topic of conversation last week. Barcelona took down Chelsea, and a lot of the other teams that were supposed to win, Bayern Munich and others, have been winning. So we'll see. Champions League. All right, those are your quick headlines here on the Cheap Seats. We're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time to try to just declutter and I don't even know. A lot of defense, a lot of offense. We got to figure out what's going on.
There's not a
here.
word that describes it.
There's not. A lot of craziness happening in the NFL free agent market. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to The Cheap Seats on Public House Media.
This is Kim Meyer, host of Choose to Rise, here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Choose to Rise, where we talk about positive mindsets, uplifting content that just helps you improve your life overall. A new show comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in podcast version, or you can catch me live on the Public House Media Facebook page every weekday or morning around 6:45 Central Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Choose to Rise. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Howdy, howdy. Welcome back to the Cheap Seats here on Public House Media. I'm Baxter Colburn. That's Matt Coyne. We just had a great little first segment there about the quick headlines going on in the sports world. If you'd like to get in contact with the show, feel free to reach out to us on the Facebook page. The Cheap Seats by Public House Media is how you can find us. I'm on Twitter at Baxter Colburn. I don't think Matt is yet. We've been talking about it around the studio, but we'll see if Matt ever does that. So feel free to tweet at me if you'd like to. Matt's on other platforms, so if you really want to dive in and try to find Matt, you can.
I'm on the book.
On the book?
Is that what they call it?
On the face? Is that what the kids are calling it?
It's just hard because I do Twitter and Instagram,
right,
on the church side of it, so it's hard to do that. But I am on the Facebook.
The Facebook, if you want to hear all Matt's thoughts and feelings. Yeah. You did a good post about, who was it? When McCutcheon left.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
yes.
You were nice and made a good post there about everything.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
It's all about, you do comment on it. You're not just completely throwing it all out there.
Yes,
but,
when it comes to sports, especially players like McCutcheon, I make sure I give them their due. He is I'll miss him. Back. So I already bought a Giants jersey for him.
Did you really?
No, I didn't.
I was about to say, wow.
I talked to my wife about it. I said, I'm probably going to buy, when they come to Milwaukee, I plan on going to see.
I'll go with you.
That'd be great, yeah.
Let's go. Road trip.
We'll have to go up in the cheap seats also.
Obviously. Yeah. That's the only tickets. I think those are the best seats, personally.
Yeah.
Not biased at all about that. All right, so here we go. NFL free agency is getting pretty crazy right now. Of course, you've heard a lot of the big headlines in terms of Kirk Cousins. You've heard of the Allen Robinsons, the Sammy Watkins, everything Cleveland's done thus far as well, too. Boy, oh boy. Like, how do you appropriately decipher everything that's taken place? Because I feel like, Cleveland has done a lot. I mean, I'm looking at the arrivals. They've got TJ Carey, Darren Fells, Chris Hubbard, Carlos Hyde, Chris Smith, Donald Stevenson. Those are the ones that they have agreed to. Obviously, there's been a lot of trades and a lot of other things going back and forth. The only departure so far in free agency has been Isaiah Crowell, who was okay, but not like over the top amazing in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotten extremely better. I mean, just losing Crowell is not. They have 4 top 35 picks. I think they're going to find somebody better than him.
Right, exactly. I do find it interesting, at least at the time of us recording, is that the fact that Kirk Cousins is still listed as the number 1 available free agent.
Yeah, it's interesting. NFL.com has him as available, but then if you go over to CBS.com, they have him as with the Vikings. I think it's one of those things NFL wants to say, we're not going to put this in until
the paperwork
it's
hasn't officially been processed.
And I respect that because anything can change.
Absolutely. So you look at some of the most available free agents right now. You've got Ndamukong Suh, Tyrann Mathieu, Sheldon Richardson, among others, Kyle Fuller, Dante Poe, just to name a couple. I mean, those are some good players. Technically, Morgan Burnett and Eric Reed as well, too, are free agents. There's a lot of guys that are still available that I feel like could make really any team a little bit better.
Absolutely.
I mean, Eric Ebron got released the other day as well, too, from the Lions. That's a fantastic first-round, number 10 overall draft pick that's now hanging out on the market.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that this year I know we've been talking quarterback is such a important position to fill, which obviously it is, but it seems like teams are just going crazy. I mean, even to the backups. I mean, I have never seen backups going like this, backups being signed where the Bills signed A.J. McCarron. Now, that could be their starter. I mean, you got Nate Peterman there. I don't see him being a starter anytime soon. Shout out to Pitt, but I don't see him starting there. You got the Vikings getting Trevor Siemian, however, and Saints got Tom Savage. I mean, I don't remember a year where teams are signing backup quarterbacks at such a fast pace. It's interesting.
I think the reality of it is that last year was a massive telltale sign about what you can and can't do when you've got that opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Green Bay went from a Super Bowl contending team to an awful team. Mm-hmm. I mean, Tom Brady was even rumored to possibly, he had that massive gash in his hand too.
Did you see the picture of that the other day?
It was terrible.
Wow.
And good for him for playing through that with a glove on.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I mean, I thought it was just a scratch. I saw that. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Did he cut it on his teammate's helmet, right, or something like that?
Yeah, I forget who it was. He was cut after. No, he wasn't. But
yeah.
it was a player. Lewis. It was like a third string.
It wasn't like Rex Burkhardt or something like that, right? I think it was
you know what? You might be right.
And then they just re-signed him to a deal, so he and Tom must be all right.
I would feel terrible if that was me.
Oh, my gosh. Like, I'm sorry. Oh, man. I'm so sorry.
You get, like, Rapunzel's hair and start singing to heal it. No, nobody gets that. Never mind. I'm sorry.
No one.
Wow. Anyway. Sorry about
that. Good
that.
effort, though. But, look at, you said that, though, right? Texans quarterback Tom Savage is signing with the Saints. Mm-hmm. The Saints now have 3 quarterbacks because they have Drew Brees. They still have Taysom Hill, who was highly touted as a really up-and-coming young quarterback. Mm-hmm. And now they've got Tom Savage in there as well, too.
And Nate Solder, don't forget, he's over in
he went to New York now. Yeah, he went to the Giants.
It really interests me. All these backup quarterbacks are being signed left and right.
Right. I will say one of the moves that has surprised me that I feel like was a foolish mistake on the team's part was Jerick McKinnon to the 49ers. I don't think he was deserving of that much money and to be as highly touted as he has been so far because, in my opinion, he's an okay running back, but you're going to tell me that he in Minnesota wasn't able to do enough because, the offensive line of Minnesota, I think, is better than San Francisco's offensive line. Yeah. And now Jerick McKinnon's going to potentially be the main man in town as well as whatever, they might draft as well, too. But I feel that was an overpay, on my opinion, personally.
Yeah, he had an all right year, but he was sharing his carries. I see. It looks like last year at 570 yards, 3 touchdowns. And, that's not a terrible year.
It's not, and obviously that number went up because it was originally Dalvin Cook's team. He got hurt, and then all of a sudden, when McKinnon had the opportunity, Latavius Murray emerged as the more consistent, more reliable running back.
Yeah.
McKinnon still got time, obviously, with the ball, but it was still very much Latavius Murray's ball a lot of the time down the stretch, as we saw even come playoff time as well, too. So,
yeah, it seems like a lot of overpaying this year for free agents.
I think so, and I think this is always something I get myself wrapped up into, and I think we as fans get folded into as well, too, is that teams, I think, as much as they say that the media and the fans don't have an influence on what they do, I think they do, because realistically, if the media wouldn't have been talking so much about Kirk Cousins, I don't think he gets half the deal he gets.
No, if I'm Kirk Cousins, I'm sitting at home. This is great. Just keep talking about it.
Yeah, perfect. Like, just keep dropping little drops in the water here. Maybe say a rumor that I might be going to this team. Oh my gosh, drive the price up. Like,
yeah. Well, and then then you have these teams we were talking on Wednesday with Christian saying you were saying that these bad teams are doing what they need to get better. And all of a sudden, you said the Jaguars, they were silent. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, they just came out of nowhere and started signing people left and right.
Which is what they needed to do.
Yeah, they got Andrew Norwell from the Panthers. Well, free agent, originally, came from the Panthers. DJ Hayden from the Lions, and Dante Moncrief from the Colts. Now, he's no Allen Robinson, but they're picking it up, which is good to see from them. I mean, I don't want to talk about it, but in the playoffs. But I mean, they were one step away.
Right.
I was obviously pulling for them in the AFC Championship, but not obviously. I was, but they're one step away, and it was crazy to see them letting these players go. Are you going to do anything? So. I mean, these the teams that needed to take a step took a step.
Some teams are bad. You can be honest about it.
But the Jaguars aren't a bad team. Obviously, they made it AFC Championship, and
right.
They're filling holes. And, you got these teams that are staying silent, and I hate to keep saying it, but the Steelers are a team that hasn't done nothing.
It's true.
And how are you going to beat the Colts? How are you going to get better? You're losing players. Now, the players that are losing aren't that big of a deal, but some teams are staying pretty quiet during all this, which isn't always a bad thing.
No, you're right. And I'm looking at, different teams and different players that are being signed by teams as well, too. I mean, Denver's been quiet. They need to do a lot of rebuilding. They're a team that needs to get things figured out. Yeah, they signed Case Keenum, so they got their 2 seconds of excitement. But, I mean, they signed the 78th overall ranked linebacker in Todd Davis, and they also signed a defensive back, Tremaine Brock, as well, too. I have no idea what that does for the team, but, I mean, that's a team that needs to get better fast because they're starting to burn out time with Von Miller. They're starting to burn out time with their wide receivers that are really young and talented as well, too. They need to start winning sooner rather than later. I was fine when Denver was won the Super Bowl. I was fine when Denver was one of the best teams in the AFC because it was a change of pace.
Yeah.
It was a good change of pace. Detroit, they're starting to reload as well, too. They go bring out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new players on the first day of free agency as well, too. I mean, it's a lot of positional players and guys that are just going to kind of fill in a little bit. But, I mean, all these guys aside from one are all defensive players. And what was one of the things Detroit struggled with last year? Defense. You know, that's how, I mean, they have good offensive players when you've got a guy like Matt Stafford throwing the ball to Golden Tate and others. But defensively, they were just a cheese grater. So they were getting just sliced and diced. So Green Bay, yeah, they've gone out and made a couple of moves too, but not enough. Houston, they needed to reload, and they're starting to do that as well too. So it makes me worried about teams that have clear needs, and I get it. Not every single time that there's free agency are you as an organization going to sit there and say, perfect, let's make a big splash, let's go figure some stuff out. I get it. That's not always realistic, but you have to do something. You have to try to address some sort of need, some sort of issue. New England, all they've done is sign Rex Burkhead, who's a guy that was already on the team last year.
Yeah.
But does New England need to get better? Well, they lost Danny Amendola. They're in the sweepstakes for Jordy Nelson right now as well, too, a wide receiver. I don't know. There's teams that are going to consistently be good, but like we had mentioned with Christian on Wednesday, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
Yeah.
And I think teams are starting to realize that's why the Giants and the Jets have been throwing money at anybody that has a pulse right now because they're like, we need to get better. That's unacceptable for New York sports to be bad when the Yankees are finally starting to come back up. The Knicks are, let's not talk about the Knicks, but like, when the Yankees and the Mets are doing well, New York doesn't want baseball to be the focus. I mean, it's the Yankees. It's impossible to compete with the Yankees, but still, the Jets and the Giants, those are big teams. Those are the New York teams.
Yeah, they did not have good years. And, the thing about this whole NFL agency that interests me, I was telling you Baxter off air that all of a sudden these tandems that are happening, you got in your beloved city of Green Bay, Rodgers and Jimmy Graham now.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of Jimmy Graham when he was with Breeze. I mean, he was huge.
His market value blew through the roof.
Yeah, so I think that is just going to be huge for Green Bay. In my, I know Jordy Nelson. I was watching the news yesterday. What he's done in this city, and I mean, what a just upstanding person. And off the field and on the field, obviously he helped you guys a lot. But Jimmy Graham, I think, is just going to be huge. And all right, Trubisky, Mitchell Trubisky.
Well done.
I think I can never say his name.
Trubisky, yep.
Yeah, but he has Allen Robinson now. You got Tyrod Taylor, who has Jarvis Landry and Josh Gordon. And, I mean, Terrell Pryor's a free agent. I mean, he did terrible last year, but he had 1,000 yards the year before. Shout out to Western Pennsylvania. No,
it's fine.
This is I got to be a fan. But, and then you got Case Keenum to Thomas, and then you got Cousins to Adam Thielen. Like, all of a sudden, these teams, I think, are seeing what the successful teams are doing that they have. You got Brady to Gronkowski. You got Roethlisberger to Brown. You got Matt Ryan to Julio Jones. Like, I think these teams are seeing this is what we need to do.
Right.
And so I'm excited as a fan to see these players or to see these new tandems and what's going to happen.
I agree. And I think it's interesting to kind of flip this conversation a little bit too, because you're looking at all these next generation combinations or these combinations. And that's what we talk about so much. It was Montana to Rice. It was Young to Rice. Mm-hmm. It was Favre to Sharper, I think as the guy was, or it was Favre to Driver for a long time.
Shannon,
it was Roethlisberger to Hines Ward and all those other guys. Like those are the tandems that we think about. One person that I'm shocked we haven't heard a single thing about so far in free agency is the most controversial man on the planet, Colin Kaepernick. Still available. Hanging out there. I've seen nothing. I'm looking at an article right now from the Tennessean because I was curious. I was like, is there any news or anything? Tennessean is saying, this is an opinion piece it looks like, but Tennessee is the headline says Tennessee Titans free agency want a young mobile backup quarterback with starting experience. Johnny Manziel and Colin Kaepernick are your best options. So
I would take Kaepernick over Manziel.
I would as well too.
The problem is that he's also been out for a year.
Right.
Now, is he? I'm sure he's been staying in shape,
he still is in very good shape.
I'm sure he's fine. But you have him available that I think would be a great.
I'm just kind of surprised. Like that's a name that usually people are like, hey, Colin Kaepernick. This time of year, feel like someone's always going to get mentioned about him. I'm curious. I'm curious to see if anything comes from it. Whether or not it does, who knows? But that's just a thing to keep in the back of your mind as you go about your day. Keep the thought process of Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah. One thing I just as we're wrapping this part up, Joe Thomas.
What a guy!
I mean, obviously, for those of you who don't know, he did retire on Wednesday. And I knew he had a streak. He played for 11 years. I knew he had a streak. But I did not realize that he never missed a snap. Over 10,000 snaps for a center. I mean, that he said that his body just can't take it anymore. And,
right.
I mean, no wonder, dude. You played at a place where I think maybe he saw in 11 years maybe one winning season. That might take us back to when they made the playoffs in the early 2000s. But no, it wouldn't. I think that was like 2004, 2005, so that wouldn't even take it back to there. But this guy just got his body beat up for 11 years and never missed a snap. And how many quarterbacks? 20. Yeah, that's just
whew. Props.
Yeah.
Props to you, man.
Yeah, and we'll come back to Joe Thomas later, Baxter. I have something.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, about that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what you have to say about that. All right, well, that is all we got for this segment. We're going to run to a break. When we come back, it's going to be time to call home when we have executive producer from the Big 920 WOKY in Milwaukee, Armen Saryan, join us to talk a little bit about the Green Bay Packers, more in depth with the free agency and our calling home segment. That's coming up next here in the Cheap Seats on Public House Media.
Podcast, A Star Wars Story, here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you are done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Podcast, A Star Wars Story, where we talk about anything and everything Star Wars. A new show comes out bi-monthly. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Podcast, A Star Wars Story. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
But first, let me take a selfie.
Welcome back to the Cheap Seats on Public House Media. I'm Baxter Colburn alongside Matt Coyne as we Roll along with the show. It's time for our Calling Home segment where we call back to the respective markets that we're fans of to check in to see how the teams are doing, the news, all that fun business. Matt has surrendered his Pittsburgh card this week because the Steelers have done nothing in NFL free agency. So hopefully we can do some Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, we can talk
sort
about
of talk.
the Pirates next week.
There you go. Baseball. I'll make sure to be gone for that segment. No, I'm sure it'll be great. But we have the opportunity to speak with somebody back in the Green Bay, Milwaukee, Wisconsin market. For those that listened last week, you know that we had Kevin Holden on the program, so it was really awesome to speak with him. Very smart and very knowledgeable guy. This week we get to keep up with our high-profile guest. We're going to head down to Milwaukee again, welcome in not only a good friend of mine, but also a very talented broadcaster for the Big 920 down in Milwaukee. It's Armen Saryan, and he joins us on the program now. Armen, good day to you, sir. Welcome to the show.
Good day, guys. Thanks for having me on. Boy, high-profile, talented broadcaster. I was worried you'd be on the wrong line. I thought you had the wrong guy.
Armen's like, wait a minute. I was the other show. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to have you on the program, man.
Armen, the Steelers have done nothing, so I'm jealous of this. So my first question, obviously the big signing with Jimmy Graham. My question for you, he's 31. Obviously high-profile player. Do you think, in your opinion, Green Bay went a little bit too much? I mean, you still have Savarian Jenkins out there. You still have Tyler Eifert out there at 25, 27 that they might have been able to get cheaper at a younger player. Well, what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's super weird to hear the question, did they go too far? Because we're used to the opposite question for the last, 15 years of free agency.
There's no spectrum now. It's too far or too
right.
I
mean, it's like, did they go too far? The thing is, yeah, Jimmy Graham is getting older. Our skills declining. He still had 10 touchdowns last year. I like the idea of what he can do with Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not sure exactly in the financials, but when you look at a position like tight end, Green Bay struggled there last year. They thought they had I think a great, when they signed Jared Cook, that was like the great kind of bread and butter, like the happy medium signing, because he wasn't like a huge star. He didn't demand a lot, but he really did what you wanted him to do. Now, they thought with Martellus and Kendricks last year, they even ramped it up a level and said, we're even going to get better at this position. And it actually went the opposite way, right? It would turn into a disaster. Yep. So they obviously needed an upgrade in that position. They went out and got the best tight end in the free agent market.
Absolutely, yeah.
Will he work out? I think will he work out is a different question. That's, you can never totally foresee how these things will go. But I think I'm glad they went out and got someone like that, just because I think the more weapons you surround Aaron Rodgers with, the better. There were other guys out there. I know Ed Dixon, I think, is still out there and things like that. Yep. And you talk about Savarian Jenkins, but I think I would be happy with it. They had to get the cap room out of the Jordy situation, obviously. So.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you on that one as well, too. I mean, and you mentioned that, too, and it's been talked at length as well, too, with Jordy being gone. Obviously, that there's that divide right now in Packers camp about people that are realists saying, well, from a financial perspective, yes, it made a lot of sense. We had to do it. And obviously, you have the diehards, because everyone's got a soft spot for Jordy Nelson. I don't think anybody ever hated Jordy Nelson once in their life. And if they did, yeah, even Steelers fans are like, we love Jordy.
Right.
But realistic, though, it makes a lot of sense. But then my question is, though, too, will we see another wide receiver come to town now, maybe at a reduced price? Obviously, Allen Robinson and Watkins are off the market, but Jordan Matthews is still around, and others that are still available that I feel like could make an impact, but maybe not that high-profile guy that maybe some Packer fans wanted, since now we grabbed Jimmy Graham.
That's super interesting you asked that, because I think, you talk about the free agent market for wide receivers has been kind of bullish. Like, a lot of wide receivers are getting big money, and I think in Green Bay's experience, they've done really well and been successful by kind of drafting their own guys and developing them around Aaron. I think they kind of take the philosophy with Ted. Now, who knows if it'll change with Gutekunst, but I have a feeling this will stay most of the same, that they feel like their receiving core is going to grow with Aaron, and that's where the quality will come from. I think they believe Aaron will make those guys and not vice versa. So I still wouldn't expect them to go out and spend a lot of money on a wide receiver. A, because I think their money is well spent elsewhere, especially on defense. I think they know that. And B, I think they realize that, we had this guy, Aaron Rodgers, that can make great receivers out of these guys. I mean, if you look at most of the receivers that left Green Bay at post-Packers, they just were not as productive. And, Jordy Nelson, I hate to say it, I mean, he lost a step, but he also is a great example. Look what he did with Hundley. It really wasn't as much. So
Yeah.
I think of the Jennings, the James Jones of the world. I don't think there's really a need for the Packers to spend a lot of money on a receiver. Yeah. They have a lot of young guys they like. Whether it's Trevor Davis, Geronimo Allison. We forget about a guy like Clark that came last year. There were a lot of guys. I mean, the Packers usually have a receiver or two in camp that they have to cut that they don't want to. So I tend to think that they're going to kind of try and grow around this young cast of receivers, and probably, they're going to look at some more in the draft, I'm sure. So
yeah,
I don't expect them to spend money on a free agent receiver.
Yeah, talking with Armen Saryan from the Big 920 down in Milwaukee. This is me just playing more so wishful thinking, but there's a name on the free agent market that I haven't heard a lot about yet in terms of people talking about possible landing spots for him, but it's Adrian Peterson. I know it's obviously a couple years removed from the just god that he was on the football field.
Right.
Packers have a lot of young talent right now, but Adrian Peterson wants a ring because, let's be honest, if any pundit, when it comes to Hall of Fame time or whatever, in general, looks back at his career and says, well, he never won a ring.
Yeah.
If I'm AP, do I start calling or start fielding calls from New England and Green Bay and maybe one or two other high-profile teams and say, hey, I don't necessarily need to start, but can I come and be a second running back for you guys and try to win? Would AP fit into the Packers' plans in your mind based off of the running back production we saw last year?
Well, it's pretty intriguing. I gotta say, I don't think the Packers are looking to bring in a guy at he's 32 now, and he's kind of on. It seemed like he was on his last legs in Arizona, although he had a little bit of a resurgence. I think it's an intriguing idea, especially because you have young running backs. And I think the question is, do you want to stunt the growth of the young guys, or you could bring him in, Adrian, as a change of pace back. We know how it is in the NFL now. Bevy of backs is better than the one guy you kind of pound all game. So. Yep. The thing is, you'd probably be very cheap. You'd probably get a veteran's minimum guy out of him, and the risk would probably be fairly low for the Packers.
I would think so,
money-wise and health-wise. I just don't know. I think they're comfortable with young guys at that position and stuff like that. And a guy like Ty Montgomery that they moved to running back last year, I don't see him playing as much running back. I think he's going to be more of that Tariq Cohen kind of like hybrid slot position that's very popular now in the NFL.
Right.
That's quite interesting. I'm not really sure. I don't know what the interest is for Adrian Peterson on the market right now, and how actively. I mean, I haven't heard anything. I guess on him. That's true. I haven't heard if he wants to retire or not. So that's an intriguing idea, Baxter. I have to say. I'm not sure the Packers would do something like that, but at least bring him into camp. Maybe it's worth a look.
Right. Exactly.
There have been guys in the past they've done that.
Yeah, you think somebody like D'Angelo Williams who. Came to Pittsburgh. I mean, he admitted, he goes, I just want a chance at a Super Bowl ring. I mean, it seems like something that he would, and you can't blame him.
No, he had a decent career with Carolina, and then was just, I don't think he expected to have as big of an impact as he did.
No, I was very glad that he was there.
Exactly. And
I mean, he really saved the Steelers at a certain spot.
Absolutely.
There are guys like that. I just think that, like in the NFL, I think there's aging running backs just get so little respect or value in the market that. It's hard to see these guys, still catching on to teams mostly want to go younger and cheaper with things like that. But the flip side of that is the value so low, they'll probably take a low deal, So.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Armen, last question for you before we have to let you run. Based on the moves you've seen so far, just within the NFC North, how worried are you as a Packers fan with what Chicago and Detroit and Minnesota have been starting to do over the first couple of days here in free agency?
Well, yeah, they've all been very active, and this is going to be a tough division. There's no doubt about it. The thing with Minnesota is interesting because we're talking about just Kirk Cousins in a vacuum. So this was a good pickup for them. They usually don't have quarterbacks like this, obviously, and I think this is somebody they're glad to get because they had three quarterbacks last year, and it's like who they're going to keep, and it's like, well, we're keeping none of them. It's pretty interesting, but they do have a lot of money wrapped up in him now. I mean, for a guy that never won a playoff game, $28 million a year guaranteed for 3 years. It's a lot of money, but then again, that's the going rate of NFL quarterbacks. The value is so high at that position. The need for quality at that position is so high that teams are willing to take a chance on it. I'm yet to see how it'll fit in. I mean, you have to remember they have a tougher schedule now. They were 13-3 last year, so they have a tougher schedule.
Right.
I forget now off the top of my head, but they have 2 tough road games. They have to play the Packers twice with Aaron Rodgers, which they didn't do last year, obviously. So I wouldn't be surprised if they took a step back. I think they're the favorite in the North, but I'm not sure they're going to run with anything. I think the Packers will be battling them throughout the year. So it's a good pickup for them, but, you don't just throw a new quarterback in and it all starts flowing easily. He's got to now have a new offense and everything. He's the leader now, so we'll see how that all comes about. The Vikings are good because of their defense and their whole team, I think, not just their quarterback and their offense. The Bears have made a lot of moves, but I don't know. I think the moves they've made, they have 2 receivers now and a tight end, so they want to get guys. I think they want to get guys around Trubisky so they know what they have in Mitchell Trubisky. Yeah. So they can't use an excuse that they didn't have any weapons and things like that. I wouldn't say I'm still worried about it, but they had to make moves. And I think the same goes for the Lions as well. So it'll definitely be intriguing. It'll be a tough division. I think it's been that way the last couple of years, and it'll continue to be that way. And everyone's kind of, everyone seems to be stocking up, and it's interesting because a lot of times the guys that are signed on free agency and NFL free agency, it turned out to be a mirage. They don't make the impact that people think they're going to make. So it remains to be seen, I think.
I would agree with that. All right, Armen, we got to let you run, but we really appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks,
if people want to keep up with you and what you're doing, talking sports, Packers, or the latest Armenian news as well, too, how can they do that?
Yeah, exactly. You can listen to me on the Big 920. I'm on the Drew Olson Show. That's the Big 920 in Milwaukee, or you can listen on the iHeartRadio app to the Drew Olson Show on the Big920.com as well. And you can also check out my Twitter account if you want. It's at Armen Saryan. That's at ARMENSARYAN.
Fantastic. Armen, always a pleasure, sir. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Yep. There goes Armen Saryan, the executive producer for the Drew Olson Show down at the Big 920 in Milwaukee. All right, we are going to go into March Madness when we come back. We got a lot of things. I got my Final Four. I have to redeem myself, Matt. I have a confession. I'll talk about it when we come back.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Okay,
that's all right.
I'll vent my sins to you when we get back. We'll be back. It's the Cheap Seats on Public House Media after this.
This is Nicole Kelly, host of Loud and Proud here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Loud and Proud, where we talk about issues facing the disability community. A new show comes out weekly. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Loud and Proud. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hopefully you found some satisfaction with your March Madness brackets by now, by the time of this show coming out. I don't know if I have or not. I don't know the future, Matt. As we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, we are recording the show on Thursday morning, so I don't know at this point. I'm going to say I have a perfect bracket at this point because I have no idea what is going to happen.
You might as well be optimistic.
Right. I feel very good about all of my lower seeds winning. No, I don't. I didn't pick it that route. But I do have to go on the record to clarify that I did lie on Wednesday. I lied on Wednesday when we were doing our live video with Christian on the Cheap Seats by Public House Media Facebook page, so go check that out and you can see how big of a liar I am. I said that I didn't have any 1, 2, 3. I didn't have 1, 2, or 3 seeds. And as I was reviewing before we went on the air, as Maury would say, that was determined that was a lie. I do have a 2 seed and a 3 seed, but 2 4 seeds as well too in my Final Four, which we'll get to in just a minute. I do want to say a special thanks to Armen Saryan for joining us in our last segment. Just a man full of knowledge. Super excited that he was able to join us and talk more about the Packers. Brought up some great points, and I'm excited to see what comes of Packers free agency moving forward.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear what he had to say.
All right, Matt, if you haven't done it already, I know you have, you've been a part of the Public House Media Bracket Challenge, correct?
I have, yes.
You've gone to the Facebook page, you've clicked on the link, or you've gone to the Cheap Seats Facebook page and you've clicked on the link and you've signed up.
Yes.
Have you shared it? Have you told people about it as well, too?
I have, yes.
You have? Fantastic. Yeah. And do you know of anybody that's signed up at all?
I do. I know of at least one. I'm pretty sure my brother and a few others have signed up as well.
Your brother from another mother has signed up?
No, my
brother from the same mother.
From the same mother.
That's fine.
But a brother from another mother as well.
Oh, that's good. Wait.
Okay.
Anyway, that's your life, not mine. Anyway, but no, we're excited. I love that our group motto this year is we all have a bracket. Of course, the Public House Media tagline is we all have a voice. So I think that's pretty exciting to see.
Good.
We've got over 30 people in our bracket challenge right now, which is amazing. You can play against myself and Matt and other people from Public House Media as well. The top people that finish 1 and 2 will be given Public House Media and Cheap Seats prize packs. I've been told there's T-shirts, there's mugs, there's assorted towels, maybe, possibly. There's a lot of things you could win if you're in first or second place. So
I don't have to worry about that.
Maybe. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's see. Do you want to talk about Final Four? Because like I said, at this point, we have no idea how our first rounds did. We can tell everybody now our predictions if you want to, because that way people can make fun of us for the first round of games.
And I know nobody will copy off of me. Oh, wait. You don't want to copy off of me.
Right. But like I said, by the time this is released, I mean, no one's going to know. These games will all be in the book by that point.
Mm-hmm.
So first rounds of games, well, actually, that's not officially true. Some of the games will be done because first round takes place today, yesterday, Thursday, and today, Friday. So either way, we can still be semi-partially right, I guess, depending on how we look at it. So let's start on the left side, work our way through really fast. I have Virginia winning. I'm assuming you do as well. I have Creighton beating Kansas State. I have Davidson upsetting Kentucky.
I have Kentucky.
Ooh, I have Arizona beating Buffalo. I have Miami beating Loyola
I have
Chicago.
upset there.
I think there's a good chance of that as well, too. I have Tennessee beating Wright State.
Yep.
I have Nevada beating Texas.
I have Texas.
Ooh, I have Georgia State pulling the 15-2 upset.
Whoa! No. Wow, I hope that doesn't happen. I'll tell you why in a minute. Wow.
I have Xavier beating Texas Southern. I've got Mizzou beating FSU.
I have FSU there.
I have OSU beating South Dakota.
I have an upset there, South Dakota State.
I have Gonzaga winning. I've got Houston beating San Diego State. I've got Michigan beating Montana. I've got Providence beating Texas A&M.
Oh, and I have Texas A&M.
I've got UNC beating Lipscomb. Lipscomb. On the other side of the bracket, Villanova. Yep. My prediction there. Virginia Tech. West Virginia.
Yep.
Wichita State. Florida. SF Austin.
No, I didn't really pick any upsets in this one. No, I have Texas Tech.
I've heard that the St. Bonaventure Florida game could be fairly telling. I've heard that's a huge upset alert.
Oh.
So keep that in mind.
Well, if I didn't pick St. Bonaventure to win the first game.
Well, you don't
against UCLA.
You don't pick those games.
I know, but I didn't think they would. No, I'm just kidding.
So you're just in general, you're just like, all right, whatever.
No, I just picked Florida.
Fair enough. I've got Arkansas beting Butler.
I have Butler.
I have Purdue beating Cal State Fullerton. Kansas beating Pennsylvania. You're not going to pick Penn? You're not going to be the homer? Pick the upset?
I mean, I think they had a 0.002% chance of winning. So
hey, man, represent the home.
Yeah, well.
All right, that's fine. Seton Hall beats NC State in mine. Clemson beats New Mexico State. Auburn beats Clarkson. Syracuse upsets TCU.
I have that.
I then have Michigan State beating Bucknell. Oklahoma beating Rhode Island. And I have Duke beating Iona.
Hey, well, we were
pretty similar there.
Yeah, on the first round.
Which means we're both equally screwed.
And it's just going to all go downhill from there.
Exactly.
Yep.
So how do you want to do this? Do you want to reveal our Final Four? Do you want to reveal our Elite Eight and maybe let us guess? I don't know. How do you want to do this?
I say let's do Elite Eight and say who we have going from there.
Okay, yeah, that's fine with me. Who's your Elite Eight, Matt? We'll start with you.
I have Virginia, Cincinnati, Xavier, Gonzaga, Villanova, Purdue, and Kansas, and I lied, and Auburn and Michigan State.
Oh, okay. All right, okay. I see that. That's interesting. Let's see. For me, I have Arizona and Nevada on my one little bracket there. I've got Villanova, Purdue. I have, let's see, where is this? I have to figure out how to scroll. Missouri and Michigan. And then I have Auburn and Duke.
Wow.
So those are my Elite Eight teams. I have Kansas falling to Auburn farther back, obviously. The one seed in this one. Who do I have losing here? Or no, there's not a... Kansas was the one seed there. Who's the one seed over here that I have losing? Xavier, I have them losing in the second round to Missouri.
Okay.
So that could be controversial. And then I have Virginia losing to Creighton. And then obviously I have Villanova getting to the Elite Eight.
I respect your upsets.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I took a lot of time to plan it all out. So Final Four, this is I think where it can get a little crazy and cheeky for people.
Yeah.
So who's your Final Four, Matt?
I have Cincinnati, which I took.
Okay.
Probably 45 minutes
on
this pick, and I kept going back and forth. Can I tell you why?
Please.
Yeah, so these are probably arguably the two best defenses in the tournament.
Yep.
You have Cincinnati averaging 57 against them. UVA's averaging 53 against them. But the thing that got me was Cincinnati's averaging about 75, and UVA is averaging about 68. And Cincinnati, I got to see them play a few times. I got to see UVA play. But if it comes down to a close game, I don't think UVA has what it takes. Now, Cincinnati needs to get there. Will they get there? You don't even think they'll get past the first round. So
I had to pull some sort of major upset. But to be fair, I only have Georgia State going not that far for beating them.
Yeah, so that's Cincinnati. That was a hard pick for me. I have UNC playing against them. And then on the other side, I have Villanova versus Michigan State.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry I went into there, though, but I wanted to tell you why.
No, I'm glad you did. I'm really glad you did. My final four might be shocking to some people. I have Arizona and Michigan on my left side, and I have Purdue and Auburn on my right side. So no 1 seeds, 1 2 seed, 1 3 seed, and 2 4 seeds.
Yeah, I tell you what, Auburn with Pearl over there,
that was kind of one of my thought processes behind it. Arizona also, I feel like, has an opportunity
with all this stuff going on. Yeah.
Right. I think it's a big thing. Do you want to reveal your champion, or do you want to wait?
Let's just do it.
Why not?
Yeah, let's just.
So who's your final game and who's your winner?
I have UNC versus Michigan State. And the winner of your 2018 national champion, Michigan State.
Ooh, interesting. That would make a lot of people happy. That would certainly make a lot of people happy.
I'd be cool if it didn't happen.
Well, UNC would then have won back-to-back if they would. So
yeah, and I don't know if they're going to make it again, but
where did I have UNC falling? I have them losing somewhere, obviously.
I feel like while you're looking for that, I feel like every year the first round, I feel good about it. And then by the time I get to the national champion, I'm like, this is never going to happen. Why did I pick this?
Yeah. I know, right?
Even before it happens, I'm like, this is never going to happen. Why did I pick it?
Right. Oh, I have UNC losing in the second round of Providence.
Okay.
So that's a massive upset.
Yeah. Which it could happen. I mean, UNC is, they had an impressive... Excuse me. They had an impressive run. I tried to hold that back. They had an impressive run at the at the end of the year, so they're playing well when they need to.
Right.
So.
I agree.
Yeah.
For me, I have Arizona and Purdue in my championship game, and I'm staying in the Big Ten. Purdue's my winner.
Whoa!
68-65.
The Boilermakers.
I also know that that's a massively risky pick because Purdue could be out in the first round.
Yeah. Hey, like I said, I respect that. My 4-year-old is picking her brackets right now.
I'm excited. We're going to try to get your daughters and my son to pick brackets, so hopefully we can get something.
I think that I saw her when I left. She was doing her bracketology. So
atta girl.
Yeah. So
too funny. All right, we are going to run to another break. We're going to come back, give you some final thoughts, a bold prediction segment that we're throwing in, and we're also tossing in our poll question as well, too. It's pretty straightforward. Is your bracket busted? Yes or no? We're just going to do one, I think, this week. Just to be safe.
Yeah.
It's not anybody's going to be talking about anyway. So we'll do that when we come back and wrap up the show. It's the Cheap Seats here on Public House Media.
Host of Press Row here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Press Row, where we talk about the biggest issues in sports with the analysts, experts, and reporters who cover them. No nonsense, hard-hitting interviews on the sports topics you're talking about. A new show comes out every single Thursday. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Press Row. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
In the summer.
I think there's fewer songs that get me excited for the summer and just, as you know, going to the beach and having a good time than that song.
Yeah, that gets me excited.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Welcome back to the Cheap Seats. There's never a better time to be in the Cheap Seats than in the summertime. We are still many months away from that. But either way, it's March. We can dream, right? We're in Wisconsin. We'll get about 2 days of summer, and then it'll be our first 20-foot snowfall again. So, all right, we are here for the final segment of the show. We've got some quick, bold predictions for you that we're introducing as a new segment on the show, and we've got our poll question, which we've already told you about. Is your bracket busted by now, yes or no? Because as we mentioned, the show is being recorded on Thursday, so your bracket may have been busted by now by the time the show airs Friday morning. It might not be. You might be perfect. Who knows? Matt and I, we're just going to go on the record and say our brackets are perfect.
Yeah, I might as well.
Never had any scathing, any issues at all.
Yep,
all right, so
a
couple of bold predictions really fast before we go. Matt, what are your bold predictions that you think are going to... You said this is the way this works is going to happen before we come back.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So before we meet again, here are 3 things I think that are going to happen. Joe Thomas will have a short-lived retirement and be signed by a team.
Really?
Short-lived retirement, re-signed by a team. 2 number 1 seeds will go down in the first or second round, probably second round, but 2. And Tiger Woods will win at Bay Hill.
Wow. Those are some pretty bold predictions. I got goosebumps on those.
Hey,
Holy cow. All right, my 2 bold predictions is that the Cleveland Browns will trade one of their first-round draft picks before next Friday.
That's a good one.
And number 2, because we haven't heard about him in a long time, LeVar Ball will come out at some point to make a comment that UCLA would have contended in the NCAA tournament if LaMelo was still on the team.
I love that.
That's my 2 bold predictions,
I love that.
right? I feel like someone's going to ask him about it and be like, man, if LaMelo would have been on the team, we wouldn't have been losing in the first play round. We would have been number 1 seed. Like,
I love that.
Easy does it. All right, that's the Cheap Seats this week. Special thanks to Armen Saryan from the Big 920 in Milwaukee for joining us. You can find him on Twitter at Armen Saryan. You can find me on Twitter at Baxter Colburn. You can find Matt. Oh, wait. Maybe one day. We don't know. It's up to you. No peer pressure.
Okay.
A lot of pressure. You should do it. Either way, you can find the Cheap Seats on Facebook by searching for The Cheap Seats by Public House Media, or just search Public House Media. The Cheap Seats will pop up there. We're on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. The show comes up Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 a.m. Central Time. On Monday, you'll have John and Christian probably crying for most of the show about how busted their brackets are. Hopefully Wednesday, you'll have Max and Jeff to kind of smooth it over, and then you'll be back here with you know your name.
Yeah.
Matt. Matt's your name?
Whatever my name
Mike,
is.
Matt?
Yeah. You can call me whatever
Matt,
you
we'll
want.
call him Matt today for another edition of the Cheap Seats. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Good luck on your brackets, and we'll see you guys next time on the Cheap Seats.